Hi, my name is Keith Cooke Hirabayashi, and you're listening to the movie Raid.
It's time for the movie Raid, and tonight's victim is martial artist, actor, stuntman Keith Cooke that played in Mortal Kombat Annihilation, Heat Seeker, amongst many others. Hello, Keith.
Hello, Mike. How are you?
I am peachy. What have you been up to?
Well, I run a martial arts school with my wife in Los Angeles, so we're busy all the time. We're always going at it every day.
What does she do? Does she also do the same type, or does she do something a little bit different?
Yeah, she does the same type because actually I taught her martial arts. She's been doing it for about 7 or 8 years now.
Is she also involved with film too, or she just purely teaches as well?
She just teaches and participates here at the studio, goes to the occasional tournament.
Now, so you've been in several films as a mixed actor and a martial artist. How do you actually tell a story using the two together?
Well, I think that being able to communicate some of the the principles, like the real principles in martial arts, is what's important to me. Like if I do a kick or a punch on film, I want it to look real. So you have to learn about the correct camera angles and all that stuff, and having good rhythm, and I want it to look dangerous. Fast, powerful, dynamic. All of those things. So I think there's people who are great fighters that can't always transfer it onto film, and there are people who can transfer fighting onto film very well that probably aren't that great of fighters in real life. And so definitely it's an art, to be able to tell something on film. And usually it's a combination of teamwork, by the director, the camera people, the stunt people, the people giving reactions, and then the choreography is very important. You could have really great choreography, though, and you could have a terrible cameraman or something like that who couldn't somehow film it in the correct way so it doesn't come out well, or you could have somebody who couldn't deliver the action well because they don't have enough training or something like that. So I think there's a lot of factors that come together to make a good fight on film.
Do you think it's a little bit overlooked when it comes to our martial arts to film? Because, you see actors and you want the best out of these actors, like in the scene, you want, give the best reaction, you want to be into the reactions. Just like when it comes to fighting, you don't just want fancy footwork. You want to see some real actual, real footwork.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And so that takes a lot of dedication to really develop some of those fine nuances that make a big difference on film, because, like they say, the camera doesn't lie. It's going to pick up everything. If you have a good cinematographer, he might be able to cover some of somebody's sins, and I've worked with a lot of actors and actresses over the years, too, that are getting ready for films. I can tell right away if somebody can make something real or not. Like a really good actor usually can do it unless they're not, very physically oriented. Like if they just haven't been a very physical person in their lives. But I think a lot of times it's more the commitment and being able to get down and dirty.
When it comes to the acting portion, even though you're skilled with the martial arts on that side, but what if you're expected to just act with a little bit of a martial arts? How does that kind of throw you off a little bit?
Are you talking about me specifically? I think that what happens is, in my experience, like I trained Zoe Saldana for Avatar, and she is a very physically capable person. Extremely athletic and very flexible and strong. She could do any kick. Like, you show her a spinning hook kick and she could do it automatically. Better than a lot of martial arts people. Because she was a ballerina dancer, and she's just very, and sometimes you work with a dancer and everything looks fancy. She can make it look edgy. And so I imagine that if I was a stunt coordinator and she was in the scene, I'd be able to use her a lot. Whereas a lot of times the stunt coordinator is going to double someone if they're not that capable, and it's a very physically demanding role, and they're not a very physical person. They're probably going to double them more. But a lot of times too, you don't want your actress or actor getting hurt, so they will go to a double.
Is that why you specifically want to do the martial arts / acting perspective rather than less of the stunt?
Well, I think I have a lot better chance of getting cast in a martial arts movie than I do in a movie that has no martial arts in it. because I would have an advantage over an actor who doesn't have martial arts experience if it was a very physically demanding role. And so I've thought about that quite a bit. I mean, if you look back and you look at Bruce Lee and Chuck Norris, Steven Seagal, guys like that really are martial artists, became actors. Except Bruce Lee did some acting when he was a little kid, too. So, and he came from a family of actors. So that's a little bit different. But he was, I think, an exceptional example of he was a tremendously innovative martial artist and just a very bright guy who was very creative and was very well studied, very well schooled in the martial arts, just with his own research and practice. And so that, I think, set him apart from a lot of people. And obviously Chuck Norris was a martial arts athlete that was very successful, turned that into an acting career. That's similar to Steven Seagal, even though I don't think you could say he was an athlete, he was a martial artist first and then became an actor. And that's the way I see myself. I'm really a martial artist who became an actor. And these other people are actors who get cast in a role that has martial arts in it, and then they try to learn the martial arts. And some people do it a lot better than other people.
And the results is actually pretty surprising. Like, I don't know if you've seen the movie called The Last Dragon. They had an actor who had no experience in...
Are you talking about Timok?
Yeah, and I can't remember the dude as plays Shonoff. I'm so sorry, I can't remember his name. Unfortunately, he died. That plays Shonoff, but he was an actor in acting. Then Timok, who was in martial arts, but didn't really have any experience in acting.
I was just today. Actually, we were a couple years ago. Was that a couple years ago? We were in New York for something called the Urban Action Showcase. And Timok was there, and I actually knew Timok pretty good from the tournament circuit. He used to come out to karate tournaments a lot when I was still competing, and so I got to know him a little bit. But I got to hang out with him a couple of years ago. He's a really nice guy. But I didn't know that about Showing Up. But I love that movie. That's a good example right there, because I didn't know that about the guy who played Showing Up. That is an example of somebody with a lot of attitude who really came off as he was a real martial arts guy, because he just had the attitude for his character, And so you don't question it. But let a person, do the action a little too much, and it reveals a lot about them, that they don't look like they could actually do it. And so you have to be really careful,
Yeah, definitely. Like you mentioned, commitment. There are actors that are willing to put real work and effort doing this. And I'm even going to use example John Wick. Keanu Reeves put some serious hardcore training into this, doing the gung fu and as well as different other moves and stuff, and it really does show, in my opinion, that he actually did it. And
I agree with you absolutely. And oddly enough, that the director of that movie, Chad Stahelski, who was Keanu Reeves' double for years, stunt double. I worked with him on his first film. Actually, Heat Seeker was his first film, and he played one of the fighters in there. And he was from the Inosanto Academy, Danny Inosanto. He's a great guy, and I love what he did with John Wick. I mean, it's a super, super violent film, but there's a lot of artistry in it, Keanu Reeves pulls off that role so well, so convincingly, it's understated, and I just love it. I think it's a great film.
Some people would disagree because they think what they're watching is just a bunch of flips and turns and stuff like that. But my opinion is it's how it's done, and I thought it was done very well, in my opinion. And that's what made me want to keep watching it, because that's why I was looking forward to John Wick 2, and it just, to me, it was even better.
Personally, I like gritty, I like gritty fights. John Wick has a lot of that in it. When people start doing, like 540s and spinning this and that, I sort of get turned off. I'm not a big fan of it. I like to see good street fighting, commando fighting. I like that stuff. And John Wick has a lot of that stuff in it.
There's a lot of countless Hollywood martial arts type films, but do you think martial arts films within that area displayed is still respected in their own tradition?
I think so. I mean, I think there's films that are kind of timeless, like Enter the Dragon, like Bruce Lee's films. I love his spirit, on film, and I think, it was very motivating to me as a kid to see Bruce Lee fighting in a movie, and, when I started taking martial arts, as far as I knew, I was Bruce Lee. And so I would try to ride on that kind of energy, and it was very motivating. I love some of the throwbacks, but I'm a big fan also of Donnie Yen and Jackie Chan. I love Jackie Chan. I'm not a big fan of comedy martial arts movies. Like you brought up one, The Last Dragon. I'm just not as big a fan of them, but I liked it. I like Jackie Chan a lot, but he's playing a straight man now and doing a great job. I love the new Karate Kid with Will Smith's son. I like him in that straight role.
Yeah, I personally like his older films. Because I'm old school, I love to watch hardcore, just beat him up. But with actual flair, to me, Jackie Chan has really nice flair to it. I've watched his stunt documentary. We had all the stunt people doing all this really crazy stuff that you didn't think like anyone could do, including himself. I'm like, wow, it's like I said, it's truly amazing when they put this kind of effort and actual heart into it. They make a great performance on not just showing you how to do it off screen, but when it's posted up on screen, it's all about showing how the audience, how you present the martial arts style. Do you think influence can actually hurt a little bit, even though they may be influenced by, like you said, like Jackie Chan or Bruce Lee, but it also can reflect on the screen too of how you fight, whether it's MMA or any other type of style? Do you think that can kind of be a disadvantage to them on the screen themselves? Like, for example,
because they end up imitating someone, you mean?
Yes.
Well, I think that would always be a disadvantage, if you're not making it fresh and being able to put a lot of yourself into whatever you do,
it's great that you're influenced by these guys. But when you're starting to perform these types of moves and stuff, you're like, well, that kind of looks more like Bruce Lee, or that kind of looks like more like so and so. I'm like, you got to put your own type of style to it. Show the people what you can do, and like I said, influence is great, but it's you kind of keep that to yourself in a way.
Yeah.
But do you think when it comes to the martial arts type that are in the film, do you think they mean a little bit over glorified on some aspects?
Do I think that the fighting is glorified?
Do you think it's come to the point where a lot of it's becoming too over glorified, where it's just like a little bit too over the top?
Sometimes it is. I think it's a thing of taste. It's odd because if you look at a movie like the one we were just talking about, John Wick, probably a lot of people think it's over the top, and the amount of violence and the amount of shooting. And I remember a movie called Kentucky Fried Movie. Do you remember that?
I totally do.
And you know how the guy who was playing Bruce Lee in it, he would be fighting and the bodies would just be piling up?
Yeah.
I actually got reminded of that movie when I was watching John Wick 2, because I was like, holy moly, like, how many people can this one guy go through? But that's not really what it was about, so if you can let go of that a little bit and just enjoy the movie, it's sort of like violent ballet or something like that, I think it's just how you look at it, and some like that movie, they managed to pull it off, but there's some movies where you're looking at this stuff and you're just going, oh boy. Like I saw the movie The Great Wall. Did you see that?
Not yet, no.
Well, I happened to see it because it's on cable right now, and I watched it, and I didn't dig it. I think it didn't work. There's a lot of CGI, monsters in it, and even with Matt Damon in it and some good actors, they couldn't, for some reason, they didn't pull it off.
Yeah, that's what I mean when I'm talking about like over glorified, when you put the CGI and then you're just making it look even more fancier than what it is, and you're like, well, then you're not really getting the impact of the moves of the martial arts or what these guys are performing, because they're doing all these spin kicks and they're kicking all over the place, and you're like, that's so unrealistic. Why would they fly that far away in the begin with? But it's cinema,
And so the thing is, I think there's a lot of things that go into making a good movie, a good story, good acting, good directing, good lighting, good, all these things, and it all comes down to having good taste. You can't save a movie with CGI. You can't save a bad movie with fancy kicks or something like that. Example actually is Heat Seeker. That was shot in a way that I just think there was very little chance of that being a successful movie. Number one, it was shot in 11 days, okay, there would never be any coverage on a fight. The fights were all done in masters with cameras like hidden all around the players, you know. So at any given time there would be like 6 cameras running, and you don't even know which camera you're playing to because they wanted to do everything in masters really fast. And so it was really, really difficult. You know, like I had 14 fight teams in 11 days, and you didn't have time to rehearse for any of them. So, you know, it's just no way to make a movie, you know. So it just didn't come out very good.
Yeah, I mean, it also...
But the other came out terrible, you know.
Yeah, and it hurts you a little bit because, like, you put all this effort in it just so you can get a couple minutes of screen time of what you can do, and that's it. And then the movie bombs, and then you got... Because it's credit for you for life, because your name was attached to that, regardless of, you know, how it was done.
That's why you got to be careful. That's why actors are careful about, you know, what projects they pick and stuff like that. You know. Yeah,
and what message do you teach when others are, when students are interested in performing martial arts on screen? What road do you expect them to actually go on if they choose to go to the screen?
I like to keep it real, you know, try to keep it real. I've met people who are just, you know, they're just going for a look or something like that, and they haven't really developed any heart and soul in their martial art, and I love heart and soul. I love people who are willing to take a punch and keep going, and guys like Jackie Chan are like that, you know. I mean, he's taken some heavy shots. He's a tough dude. Get through a long career like that and take the bumps that he's taken and be as creative as he is. You know, he's got to be a brilliant guy too. But you know, when I think of Jackie Chan, you know, you think of like somebody who could be a comedic actor, somebody who could be the straight man, the tough guy, and also he really is tough, and I love that.
Yeah. Do you also think that some people or some martial artists would actually choose subgenres of the martial arts, like the imagery, just so they could show it off on screen?
Definitely.
To me, my opinion is I think it could just totally ruin you, because you're a martial artist, but yet you choose a specific style or mixed style just so you could show it off on screen. And if you're wanting to teach someone this, you're reflecting the same thing, what you're doing, to that person. They learn from what you just did to be what you just did, and that's not really entirely good, because they could ruin their career as well.
Yeah.
Do you want to promote anything that you want to plug in? Any websites, any new projects that you might be doing, any release dates, and so forth and so forth?
The only thing that I'm involved in currently is Alita Battle Angel, which is a new movie that's going to be out in 2018 sometime, I think probably in the summer. And I've been training Rosa Salazar, who's the lead actress for it, and it's another James Cameron project. I mean, he's a producer, and Robert Rodriguez is directing. And she's just a tremendous talent, and she's not very well known yet, but she will be. It should be a huge movie. And she worked really hard on her martial arts. She's been training for over a year now, and she's a really fast study, and she's a tough girl. And I really enjoy training her. So I just like to plug that. Alita Battle Angel.
All right, what about your studios? Are you still teaching, or are you in other studios, or just?
No, I've had the studio for 24 years now, and I'm a dedicated martial arts instructor. You know, and I teach a lot of kids, and we still go to competitions. You know, I don't specifically train people for movies unless that's what they want to do. But my goal is to help people become great martial artists. You know, and we do fitness, we do kickboxing, boxing. I love boxing. I've been a big student of boxing for years. And so I teach boxing, and I also, we have fitness classes and martial arts classes.
That is martial artist, actor, stuntman Keith Cooke.